Hello, I'm Soycat and welcome back to another third channel finance video. Today I wanted to talk about property investment. This is something that comes up so much in real life as a conversation topic, but also online you hear about people all the time being like, invest in property. It's the smartest thing you can do. Look at this graph. Look how much bigger the house got. Look at these facts right here. In the UK in 1952, the average home cost £1,891, whereas in 2011, less than a lifetime later, the average UK home asking price is £230,000. A 121 times increase from the 1950s. That is insane, right? Wow, there is so much money to be made in property, and that is the way that you'll often hear it, especially in the real world. But the truth is a little bit messier as to should you invest in property versus should you invest anywhere else, because the real deal about property is it's not quite a straightforward story. There are many good benefits of it, and you'll hear about these from everyone else. So let's hear about the downsides in today's video. I will be your devil's advocate for why you perhaps shouldn't invest in property, because first of all, let's mention the fact that, actually, although houses increase a lot, that is excluding the inflation thing. 121 times your money sounds great until you realize that several, most of that is actually down to inflation. And if you actually look at house prices after inflation, they still have yet to recover from 2007. In the UK, in your area, of course, vary. We're focusing on the UK because that's where I live and that's where I have the information. But any major metropolitan area in any major country is probably going to have a similar situation. House prices have increased over the long run, but when you actually look at after inflation, they've been somewhat flat, which means that in real terms, they've actually decreased in absolute value because inflation happens all the time, whereas a value increasing by less than inflation is actually a decrease in the cost of it. So yeah, bear in mind that house prices over the long run have gone up significantly. I mean, tripling your money over, 40 years is still pretty good, right? But it's not quite the runaway story of you will turn your money into a giant, much bigger pool than it ever was before. And that's in addition to the fact that actually, how much higher can they go? I mean, obviously when they hit 100,000, you're like, well, that's as high as it can go. And the truth is, any market, you don't know where the peak is until you've reached it. But bear in mind that just because past performance is not the perfect indicator of future results, every single thing you buy, even stocks, which is something I recommend as a easy investment because it's liquid, etc., etc. But anything, including money and gold themselves, can in fact fall. Past performance is not a perfect indicator of future results. It's a good one, but not a perfect one. But also bear in mind that if you do buy property and you make some money and you want to sell it, you're going to have to pay some property transaction taxes. So around the world, property transaction taxes are a huge thing because, hey, you can make, one of the easiest ways for government to make money is people need to buy and sell homes. Why not make a profit from that? In the UK alone, again, the UK is, I would say, generally better than other countries of this. There is stamp duty land tax, which, is a thing. There's land and buildings transaction tax, and there's land transaction tax. There are taxes on taxes on taxes. In the UK, this is admittedly Scotland and Wales, but there are, taxes on taxes on taxes in the UK that you have to pay when you move in something, as well as solicitor fees because you have to pay, when you're moving over such a huge amount of value in one transaction, there is a lot of T's to cross and I's to dot and stuff like that. Ignoring the cost of your mortgage, ignoring the cost of the tax, which I just want to mention, hey, fun fact, did you know it'd be real high? If you buy a house worth $500,000, you pay $30,000 immediately to the government, meaning that effectively the house is an extra 6% more expensive. That 6% you don't get back. That doesn't become, principal you get to keep. That is gone forever. There is a 6% transaction cost to buy your house. Again, assuming it is a second house. If it's your first house in the UK, there is a significant decrease in case you're curious, because again, that's a thing that we do. But basically, obviously there is a huge transaction cost to buying the house, and then also when you want to sell the house, guess what? You're going to pay on average about 1.42%. In addition to the huge weight you're going to have. But if you want to have any chance of selling your house, you need an estate agent, because that's where people look. They look on estate agents, and they charge about 1.42% on average, as much as 3.5% to sell it. So you pay a huge amount to pick up this house, you pay a huge amount to sell it, and in the meantime, you have a huge amount of your money, again, on average, about 217,000, or, whatever number you want to use, but you're going to have some huge amount of money, most likely in the six figures, if it's anywhere that's anywhere, in this one asset, which you'll have insured, of course, but insurance is a cost. Do you have to insure, some stocks? No, you can't do that. Do you have to insure a house? Yes, you do, because if the house burns down, it's otherwise worthless. So you're paying money to insure this asset. You're paying money to pick up this asset, a huge amount, by the way. You're paying money to get rid of this asset, and in the long run, again, apparently you're not making a huge amount, but this isn't what people look at. They're not looking at the asset themselves. That's the secondary part of things. They're like, but the rent, it will make me so much money in the long run. But the truth is, is rents mostly just pay more, like until you own a house outright, the rent pays the mortgage. So if you're talking about like, if you actually want to be good on the, in terms of owning a house, you want to own most of it yourself. Otherwise, it's just a debt spiral and a debt spiral. But like, yeah, the truth is, it might be a good source. It might sound really good in theory, but the truth is the actual increases in house prices aren't as good as the increases in various stock exchanges around the world, as we've proven before. But there are many better ways to use your money. Houses are just a surefire way because everyone understands the basic idea of like, the supply of homes is not increasing as fast as the demand for homes. Housing demand has been very strong, but housing supply has been in a shortage in the UK market. And in any major metropolitan area where the population is growing, housing demand is increasing at a rate far faster than government will let supply increase. So of course, people will make some money, yes, but that only goes for as long as that situation remains true. So you are taking a gamble. It sounds like a sure thing, but anything sounds like a sure thing if you don't find the opposite point of view. Stocks are a sure thing. Stocks can only go, I mean, they can't, right? We just had a huge crash, do I need to remind you? So basically, every single thing you buy, nothing is guaranteed. The only way to guaranteed make money is some 1% bank account. If you are risking money, I wouldn't recommend houses because of how illiquid they are, because of how much you have to pay to get rid of them. If you pick up a house and then immediately decide you don't want it, you've paid 6% to pick it up, you've paid 1.5% to get rid of it, and you've also paid for a lot of fees, a lot of setup things, with lawyers, etc. And is that really worth it in the end? And the answer generally comes out of like, sort of not. So if you're in it for the long run, sure, you can make money on houses. Is it the best investment to make? Potentially not. But there is an asterisk on that. So although I'm like a big proponent of not investing in property, I don't think it's the smartest investment you can make. I think, like many things, because it has hit such a high point in so many areas, there is a limit to the ceiling that your house can reach. And I think we're going to reach that ceiling very soon. Although you'd probably assume that back here, and you were wrong then. So, this is my personal impression. I would say that it's not the smartest use of an asset, but I will still say for your first house, because if you look at the reality is buying a second house, not only do you have higher taxes, I mean, you saw the difference there between your first house and your second house, right? 15 taxes are higher. You pay more tax on rental income than you do on other forms of income. There's lots of downsides like that. But I will still say, if you are buying your first property to live in by yourself, it is a very good idea. I mean, there's lower cost of picking it up. You need a house to live in. It's a smart investment because it stops you from paying rent. Rent is something that is an ongoing expense because even when you look at this graph right here, where rent is so much cheaper than owning, even in 2012 or whatever, let's say rent is cheaper than owning. The reality is when you own, you're kind of paying the money back towards yourself. You're paying it towards an asset that you own at the end of that. So that's why the first thing you can do, that's why I recommend owning a house. Even though property ownership isn't the smartest investment, property ownership is a smarter investment than having a smart investment and also having to have to buy rent your own house. If you can live in not a house, great idea. Better idea than owning property. If you need to live in a house or strongly desire to, then owning one is a smart idea. Not because, even like right now it's cheaper to own than to rent in many parts of the world, but even when this is true, when it's cheaper to rent than it is to own, it still might be a good idea to be an owner because of the fact that it's reducing your expenses. Because at a certain point in again, here's a lesson from this whole thing. Even if you do agree that rental is a great idea and you're gonna get on the house market while you still can. I mean, there's only so many houses, etc., etc. But the reality is that after a certain point in understanding finance, if you want to be a richer person, you can make some more, money, and that's always step one. Make more money, get more money. But since a lot of people know this, that's not practical for everyone. Not everyone can just go out and make more money, and even if you can, it is kind of hard. And also, making money is a much less tax efficient way of making money than investing your existing money better. But an even better thing to do than to earn more money or to spend your existing, invest your existing savings more efficiently. The best way you can make money still at pretty much any income level is to save as much as you humanly can. Cutting monthly expenses is a thing that will come up all the time on all sorts of finance sites. We've done things like stop eating takeaway coffees. And you might think like, how is like £3, $3, whatever number of dollars a day, how is that going to affect things? I mean, like the cost of my coffee, or $1 or $2 or whatever, versus the cost of, I don't know, property taxes in New Jersey. Wow, it sure is nothing. I mean, $12,000 sure makes caring about the $3 mean nothing. But no, one of the easiest ways to make money is to spend less. And again, follow me here. Everyone knows that on the basic understanding, right? But the much bigger way to think about it is that when you save money, you're effectively earning money by not going out to eat. Just, let's just say you're gonna buy a meal that costs you $30, pounds, rands all in. Then by not spending that money, you've effectively earned that amount because it hasn't been spent. But it's even better than that, because unlike when you work at a job in the Western world, we have tax rates for about 20 to 50%. In some countries, it's much higher. You're effectively not only saving the $30, but because if you went out and earned $30, £30, you would pay a tax on that, and you'd get like 24 instead. So you're effectively saving. You're earning more money by cutting your expenses than you can earn money at your job. A better source of earning money is not to work or to invest better, but is instead to spend less. This is why, like the dumb things about avocado toast is why you can't afford a house. I mean, sure, yeah, like $8 from, in the UK, like avocado toast is like £8-9. Like £8, like one day isn't the cost of a house. Actually, I checked, and it's more than £8, right? It's about 30,000 times more than £8. But 30,000, you'll notice, is about 100 years. 100. It's about like 80, 90 years worth of £8 a day. One £8 a day decision over your lifetime is the difference between owning a house and not owning a house to give to your kids or whatever, because you won't be able to live in it by the time you're 80. I will admit, you'll be dead or at the stage where you don't get to live in your own house. But my point with this is not just to be grim and remind you of your own mortality. Although we are all dying, so why care about saving money? Blow it all, am I right? But no, the actual point I'm trying to say is that there are tiny ways to save money that seem small on a day-by-day basis are huge in the long run, and they're made even huge by the fact that, like, actually, yeah, earning £8 a day more by working an extra hour a day, not only do you lose an hour of your life every day, but also it's actually even less efficient than just cutting out that one avocado toast. Avocado toast is great, I agree. I tried to get it whenever there's like free opportunities at airports. Whole different point, whole different channel. What I'm trying to say, before I got off topic, this is the worst finance channel. You meant to drive home points by like saying it again, like, don't invest in property unless, buy your first property, don't buy more than that. Property, go up real fast, real nice. Those are easy messages you can just drive home over and over again. But in this video, I'm just trying to say, hey, you should buy your first house, not because it's the smartest investment. Think of your property as being a pretty good investment, maybe even a great investment depending on your area. I was lucky, I bought a house and it's gone up something like 10% value in the last, 4 years, which is above the UK average. But bear in mind that, like, even if you are lucky, you might get lucky and it might be a great thing. But the reality is, the smarter thing about buying your first house, again, first house, not your second house, etc. That's a game you can play and maybe talk about in another video. But buying your first house is smart, not because of the fact that it's a great investment. You might get 10% in 4 years like me if you buy your house next to mine. But the bigger thing is the fact that, like, you are cutting down one of the biggest expenses you can have. The average cost in pound nominal for a rental is £8,000. I assume a year. If that's a month, I've got some real concerns. But the average cost of renting a house is about £10,000 a year, and that is an expense that never comes back. Although some of a mortgage is actually an interest that never comes back too. As you go on, more and more of that is not an expense, but instead is an investment, and you're cutting down your expenses, which again is a very efficient way to make money. So yeah, the value of owning a house, I feel like anything that everyone knows about. Literally, no matter how stupid a person you find, they'll know, oh yeah, put money in the property market. Have you seen Dumb Landlords? There's a lot of... On YouTube, there's this guy who's like... he used to be a Christian preacher, but he didn't make much money doing that, so instead made videos about houses on YouTube. I won't name drop him, but like the guy's like all talking about how many houses he has and how much money he made from them. It's basically a Ponzi scheme to get you to buy his thing, because the property isn't actually the biggest moneymaker. Convincing people that property is a moneymaker is the moneymaker. Property is in high demand. You can live in a house, but you can't live in a stock, and that's why you should have a house, but you can't live in 10 houses, nor can you live in 10 stocks. You can't really live in anything that costs too much, really. Is that nice or is that not? Should you live in your investments or not? These are debates for another video, but for now, cut down your expenses, make some money, buy a house, but don't buy 5 unless you live in 5 houses. And if you live in 4 houses or 5 houses, it's a nice house, right? But if you live in one of these clip art houses and you need 3 more, then cut down on that expense, friend. Yeah, there we go. Brought it full circle. Thank you for watching. And houses are sometimes a smart investment in some cases. Look into your local scenario. This is just the broad. This is just the broad reason why I think you should get them. Third channel, don't care. Goodbye.